just to quickly go through the overview of my presentation, we're going to get to know or to understand trafficking in persons, and then also learn the linkage between TIP and then TIP is trafficking in persons. I'll use it a lot. So we'll also know the linkage between TIP and the current pandemic, COVID-19. And then also from that, we will also learn the operational approaches. Trafficking in persons is according to the 2000 protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children. Human trafficking is defined on the basis of the three cumulative elements that are reflected down here. One, it has to have the element of the act, and then the means of, and then the purpose. So when we understand this, we quickly relate and then link it to the current pandemic that we're going to discuss in this meeting. So when it comes to the act, there are some ingredients that make up the act, and then those ingredients lead us to something else, which ends up to something else to qualify it to be a trafficking case or a victim of trafficking or a survivor, like so many of us call it different names, but well meaning the same thing. So under the act, quickly, just to understand TIP, and mostly in Uganda or East African community or the Great Lakes region, in that we have the ingredient of recruitment where someone is brought into the process. They are brought into the process. Whatever means they are used on them, they are brought into the process. Sometimes they are transported from place A to place B, and sometimes they are harbored in places. So it's both internal and out of country. So it doesn't mean that someone has to be transported first for them to qualify as a victim of trafficking. Someone can even be trafficked and, recruited and exploited in the very same location where they are. For example, we have housemates. They don't have to go all the way out of Uganda or out of a certain district. They can even stay within the same location and still be trafficked victims. So we ought to look out for those flags. So under this act and all those the ingredients that make the act, it cannot stand alone to qualify someone as a victim of trafficking. Someone has to go through means, certain means, so that it ends into a certain purpose. So under means, in terms of ingredients, we have the threat or use of force on a particular individual or a group of people. We have coercion. We have abduction. We've had children. We've had women. We have men who have been abducted into certain processes that are exploitative, and also that falls under the means. We have fraudulent means, how people have been led into the process of employment, but at the end of the day, it qualifies as a trafficked case. And then we also have abuse of power or vulnerability, and that one relates so much to what we are discussing today. It does with refugees, it does with all sorts of beneficiaries that we are trying to provide a service for as first responders, and some of us have in line with this particular ingredient that takes the means, have abused our power or the authority that we've been given to some communities. We turn it around and then it's exploitative, which contradicts with the objectives of our fight against trafficking in persons. And then quickly, maybe we will roll to the purpose. And all this, having all the acts, someone is recruited into the process, and someone is used, all these means are used on that particular person, and then the purpose is different, but at the end of the day, it has some exploitative element in there. So some of those exploitative elements that we have realized over time with the cases that have been captured in most of the reports are prostitution, sexual exploitation, forced labor that we are looking at in this. We also have slavery tendencies, and specifically to Uganda, we have cases of removal of organs that have been reported in different regions, and this is still ongoing, though in a very under the gaze of different kinds of assistance, but then it turns into a removal of organs. You find that someone is dead, burial time, they don't have their organs, or any other forms of exploitation. So I thought we should also have a grip of these three elements that are embedded within a qualification of someone to be a trafficked person. But we need to note something. When trafficking involves a child, it's a little bit different. Here's the point. It is relevant, it is irrelevant actually, it's irrelevant whether the means such as force and deception have been used or not. A child will be recognized as a trafficked victim if they have been moved within a country or across the borders. Whether by force or not, the purpose of exploiting the child still remains and qualifies them as a victim of trafficking. Now in Uganda we know that a child is anyone below 18. So if that person below 18 has been used for exploitative purpose, we don't look at the means that were used to have that child because children are easily manipulated into that process. So people can be trafficked either transnationally or in country. That is one thing that we need to note in all these. And it cuts across children affected, women affected, men are affected, all ages. So it doesn't customize on particular groups of people, but all those are affected, girls of all ages. Neighbors we've had increased economic hardship and employment as a result of this pandemic. Poverty and unemployment are key drivers for trafficking in persons. Rises in unemployment and reduction of household and individual income mean that those who are already at risk of trafficking prior to COVID-19, in particular, low-wage and informal sector workers are more likely to find themselves in precarious situations. And then we also have limited availability or access to services, including health and social security systems. Government measures in response to the pandemic, like for example, finance support, health support, may not be accessible to certain groups, including migrant workers, irregular migrants, refugees, asylum seekers. And this further exacerbates their vulnerability because of the inability to access these systems that have been put in place. Then we also have disruption. COVID-19 has disrupted the regular and irregular migration patterns, resulting in heightened irregular methods of movement and more dangerous irregular routes. As countries continue to impose travel restrictions, both within country or out of country, as well as their own citizens and permanent residents, the secularization of borders has also disrupted the pre-existing regular routes and irregular routes, which means, or which may lead to a creation of new routes and hence heightened tasks, heightened risks. Traffickers are likely to use increasingly risky modes of transport or those irregular routes to forward or to for precarious trafficking routes to continue their operations because that will work to their advantage. Because now recently we have limited, like people have been, organizations have downsized and we have a few staff monitoring, for example, points of entry. Victims of trafficking are at risk of not being identified or safely referred for support services. These actors play vital roles as frontline responders to TIP, a reduced capacity and resources of law enforcement and other relative authorities to respond to reported cases due to diversion of resources to COVID-19 response. So we have a particular envelope that is made for TIP, but because COVID has come in place, the response is channeled into managing or responding to COVID-19, and then the cases that are to be identified and reported or referred are pending for that moment, and then it increases the risk of having more victims of trafficking unlike before. What are the responses or approaches that we can use as first-line actors, as a counter-traffickers? What can we do in this place to have systems in place and also be able to relate or respond proactively to COVID-19, but also in relation to trafficking in persons? Integrate trafficking in persons within COVID-19 response and recovery plans. So when we integrate the root causes of TIP within the long-term COVID responses, in this case, we are addressing poverty, we are addressing unemployment, we are addressing income inequality, discrimination, gender inequality. This response takes steps to strengthen national frameworks for labor rights and regulations in all economic sectors and facilitate legal and safe migration routes. So when we inculcate the TIP-related response plan and merge it with the C19 response plan, then the results are more beautiful because now we have learned that these two are interrelated. They are cousins. One leads to the other. So it's important that when we are making all those plans, we merge these two and know that we have to respond to them concurrently. It's very important to us as first responders. They also maintain the identification and protection of victims, survivors of trafficking during the crisis. So this relates to the previous one. In this pandemic, we've witnessed some services to do with TIP have been funded to deal with COVID-19. But when you look at TIP, it's even more dangerous. So many people are affected because of the undercover operations that are done that are not regularly reported. So it's very important for us to maintain that identification and protection of these victims and referral systems open and running so that we can be able to save the situation and reduce the effect of TIP in our different communities and also related to our work plan. So we need to ensure uninterrupted respect for the adherence to national, regional, and international legal frameworks related to the protection of victims and ensure information at the same time. Also relatively, ensure trafficked persons have access to essential protection services and provision of care. This has already been discussed within the previous point, but then also we need to categorize TIP services as essential due to the negative and often life-threatening impact on individuals and damage caused by social cohesion and economic stability. We need to understand that the trafficking in person is relatively life-threatening as much as COVID-19 that has taken focus of TIP. Yet one leads to the other, and both of them are life-threatening, and we need to adjust our focus to have them both being supported. So with all these, the interrelations and the cases at hand that have come our way, as IM, we've been able to respond in different ways in terms of the migrants that we work with, and then we have coordination and partnership. And in this one, IM has engaged in ensuring strong and efficient coordination among relevant actors within the community at national level, regional levels, and also at the global level. And in this one, we have a strong hold on the support of the stakeholder meetings. We have supported in that. We have conducted participatory mapping exercise to identify potential locations, maybe screening points or exit points, irregular routes, to also related to irregular migrations that point at TIP, and then also the current, in relation to the current pandemic. And then also tracking mobility impacts with the use of the displacement tracking matrix. IM has contributed in providing the information that is mostly to do with points of entry and also capturing movements both internally and out of border to contain and reduce the spread of COVID-19 in relation to the current restrictions. And then also with, as IM has also done IPC, and in IPC, infection prevention and control, in that, the provision of safe water, sanitation and hygiene services in camp settings is an essential part of prevention efforts during infectious disease outbreaks, including COVID-19. Among other IPC measures, sustained access to improved wash services and infrastructure in effective IPC measures to prevent and limit transmission of the disease. And under case management and continuity of essential services, IM will continue to provide life-saving support to vulnerable communities affected by widespread transmission of COVID-19, in particular regions, and to reduce the morbidity or mortality rates. Also, IM has provided technical and operational support through short and long-term or mid-term secondment of staff, including deployment of IM clinic officers to support national COVID-19 responses. Then on the camp coordination and management, setting up and strengthening site-level platforms, for intra-camp management and coordination with service providers to ensure up-to-date information on COVID-19 has been shared through outreach programs, through awareness raising programs, all in relation to mitigating, working as a mitigation measure to the service that we're providing out there. So, well, there's a lot to say about COVID-19 and then the response mechanisms, as well as the approaches that we could use as first liners. But in conclusion, I would like to say that it is important to note that human trafficking is a complex phenomenon, and these factors should be thought of as interrelated elements that also have an impact on each other. Not only women are more vulnerable at risk of trafficking, but a woman in a humanitarian emergency setting with no access to livelihood is in a more vulnerable situation. These risks, especially when common irregular migration routes exist. Thank you very much.